In a dark world full of secrets, there is something waiting, something you cannot escape. Do you have the courage to face the darkness? The next morning, the sky over the desert was heavy with clouds, as if nature itself was on the verge of witnessing a dreadful catastrophe. Despite Crawford's disappearance, his footprints remained etched in the sand around the cursed tomb, as though warning anyone who dared to approach. The winds howled fiercely in the area, yet an eerie silence hung over everything, as if time itself had frozen in this accursed land. As days passed, mysterious reports began reaching the new research teams that had decided to investigate Crawford and his team's disappearance. The findings pointed to something dark and unknown surrounding the tomb, something inexplicable. Despite relentless efforts to reopen the cursed tomb, the sand swallowed any attempt to reach the damned entrance. As if guarding a black secret, the place refused to reveal to the world. As the teams advanced, chilling evidence began to emerge. Whispers echoing from the depths of the desert, ghostly shadows moving between the dunes at night, and footprints appearing and vanishing, as if their owner did not belong to this world. One of the participating scientists swore he saw glowing eyes watching him in the darkness. But what terrified the group even more was his disappearance the following night without a trace. It seemed as though the tomb harbored an ancient evil, one inadvertently awakened by Crawford and his team. The closer anyone got to the site, the more it seemed they were swallowed in silence, as though the ground itself rejected any attempts to uncover its secrets. The cursed entrance remained sealed, and from behind it, faint whispers could be heard, as if angry spirits awaited the day they would unleash their curse upon anyone who dared approach this forsaken land. Then, in 1972, a new team of scientists arrived, led by the renowned archaeologist Dr. Victor Harris. Known for his immense passion for ancient Egyptian myths, Harris considered himself the foremost expert in the field. He had heard of Crawford's disappearance and decided to investigate the matter himself. With his specialized team, Harris revived the search for the lost tomb despite countless warnings about the place. He had acquired Crawford's previous notes, reading every word, every warning written in his journal. Harris became convinced that what Crawford faced was no mere legend, that he believed the cursed tomb was a gateway between our world and the realm of the scarab creatures, and that the curse was on the verge of eruption. The team set out for the Valley of the Kings in the desert, where the ground was dry and scorching. There, as the sands gradually took on a black hue, an uncanny feeling overcame everyone. They moved in an oppressive silence, as though everything around them was watching. None of them knew this was the beginning of the end. Upon reaching the forbidden zone, they discovered the ground moved unnaturally. The sands shifted slowly, as though something hidden beneath them was silently observing their every step. In the distance, the ancient tomb loomed behind the hills, as if it were coming back to life in a demonic manner. As the excavation began, the ground suddenly started to crack, as if something massive was crawling beneath it. The team hesitated at first, but Dr. Harris insisted on continuing the work, believing this moment was the point of no return. Indeed, after hours of relentless labor, they finally opened the dark entrance to the tomb. The team cautiously crept inside, their lights dancing across the walls covered in ancient Egyptian symbols. The air inside was heavy, as if an invisible pressure weighed on their chests. Every step echoed softly, as though the place itself was warning them of what awaited. When they entered the main chamber, an unexpected horror gripped all their senses. The walls were adorned with scarab masks, each one staring at them with an eerie, lifelike gaze, as though eyes from another world were watching. Suddenly, one of the masks emitted a faint sound, like the whisper of shifting sands deep in the desert, followed by a slight tremor in the ground. The place pulsed with something unnatural, something they had awakened unknowingly. As they moved further into the chamber, a strange presence seemed to fill the air. The symbols on the walls began to glow unnaturally, and the very ground beneath their feet pulsed as if it were a living, breathing entity. When they approached the carving depicting the black scarab, they felt an unseen force stirring within the room, breaking the silence of the tomb with its oppressive power. Suddenly, and terrifyingly, the ground began to split beneath their feet. Massive scarab creatures emerged from the walls and crawled out of the ground, as though an ancient curse had been unleashed. These creatures were more ferocious than the human mind could fathom. Their bodies were covered in black, glistening scales that reflected the light ominously. Their eyes glowed blood red, and their transparent wings emitted a deep hum reminiscent of a volcano's rumble before eruption. The team tried to flee, but they were surrounded on all sides. The more they attempted to escape, the more the creatures multiplied and became more savage, attacking them with razor-sharp claws and dragging them toward a slow, gruesome death. In a moment of paralyzing fear, Dr. Harris discovered an ancient doorway in the far corner of the chamber. It was a dark gateway covered in symbols he had never seen before. The symbols glowed with an unholy light, as though beckoning them to cross through as the creatures closed in. Harris realized the doorway was their only hope, but he knew stepping through it meant entering another unknown realm filled with unimaginable horrors. In a desperate act of courage and despair, he decided to take the risk. He led a small number of his team toward the gate, which pulsed with a black light, seemingly opening its arms to consume them. As they crossed the threshold, an intense cold seeped into their very bones, as if they had been transported to another dimension. A place where the laws of reality no longer applied and merciless beings reigned supreme. Harris gathered himself in the final moment, deciding to step through the gateway with some of his remaining team members. The portal pulsated with its black light, opening into a realm of darkness that harbored everything hidden and terrifying. The darkness enveloped them, and strange sounds surrounded them, deep whispers that seemed to rise from the very core of the earth itself. In that strange place, everything was dark and gloomy, reeking of death and decay. The ground beneath their feet was littered with ruins and bizarre remnants whose origins they could not comprehend. The sky above them was cloaked in a thick cloud that obscured the stars, illuminated only by the faint glow of a crimson moon. A moon that seemed to watch them with malice. On the horizon loomed massive ruins, reminiscent of those described in ancient legends, where it was said dark creatures hid within the shadows. Everything exuded a sense of unease and terror, as if they had entered a realm devoid of safety. As the team advanced step by step, they felt they were not alone. Something moved within the shadows, silently observing their every move. Though its breath was inaudible, Its whispers gathered like an echo that resonated deep within their ears. Suddenly, from one of the ruins, a deep and terrifying sound erupted, a roar resembling that of beasts, yet it also carried the weight of a whisper that spoke directly to their minds. "You have entered the kingdom of the scarab, and now you shall become part of it." The team froze in their tracks, fear creeping into their souls as if everything around them had closed in, imprisoning them in a cage of dread and despair. Then, before them appeared the black scarab, larger and more formidable than ever. Its eyes glowed a dark red, and every part of its body pulsed with life, as though it breathed with a sinister and malevolent energy. They tried to escape, but every path led to more shadows and horrors. Every wall seemed to throb as if it were the heart of some mysterious creature, and every corner concealed a lurking monster. The moment Harris attempted to flee, his body began to change in a terrifying manner. Shadows crept over his limbs, slowly overtaking him. His hands transformed into dark shards, and his eyes began to glow with a red light. In that moment, Harris realized the horrifying truth. They had entered the realm of the kingdom of the scarab, where there was no escape from its trap. The curse was stripping them of their humanity, turning them into part of this dreadful world. Then, they heard the voice again, murmuring from the depths of the darkness. "There is no escape. You are now one of us." The words echoed deeply within their souls, like a final seal on their eternal fate.